season is over. They are eliminated by the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Rangers lose 4 straight for the first time this season. Picked a bad time to do it, and definitely stings. Not terribly unexpected after the Rangers lost Game 5. And Game 6, similar to the other games, low scoring. Tampa Bay scoring the timely goal, and the Lightning were the better team. They deserved to win. This was really a very enjoyable season on the whole. Obviously, a tough way to go out. The Rangers were right there. Game 3, up 2-0 after winning the first 2 games at MSG in 1 and 2. And when you have a team like Tampa and you can grab a hold of the series, you got to do it right then and there. You can't mess around. That's exactly what they did, and the whole series turned. So, it's a great learning experience for the team. And for the Rangers, I feel like it is a great learning experience for a team that this was their first go in the playoffs, this team. And with that being said, it's tough to get back. That's the problem. It is tough to get back to this point. So while it is a great experience, there's no guarantee that you're going to get back to the conference final. I'd like to believe that if this group, and there will be some changes, and we'll talk about that in this episode and future ones, but I think that, over the next 5 years or so, the Rangers should have a crack at getting back to the Eastern Conference Final and maybe beyond. So this really went way better than anyone could have expected. When we think about, when I think about the first episode of this season, like Rangers Capitals opening night, never would have expected the Rangers to have gotten to this point. No way. But it is obviously very disappointing to really blow this chance against Tampa. And for me as a fan, it very much reminds me of the 2017 Yanks. And this is a cautionary tale that's still the final chapters are unwritten for the Yankees in some ways. But, I left Game 2. I went to Game 2 of this Tampa series, and knowing that the series was not over, let's keep that in mind for this story. But fans were very joyous, obviously, after 2 great wins. The Rangers were very close to being to the final, and the crowd and just walking out of there, it was a pretty electric feeling. It reminds me of how I felt walking out of Yankee Stadium in 2017 in the ALCS after the Yankees went up 3-2 against the Astros. And, of course, they would go on to lose that series as well. A lot of promise, unexpected runs in both cases. 17, really staving off elimination in many ways. I mean, whether that be the wild card against the Twins, being down 2-0 against the Indians, all of that stuff, and just being down 2-0 against the Astros, a lot of similar parallels. Interestingly enough, and for the Yankees, they've yet to get back to that point. That's the thing. A good team, a Yankee that made the playoffs every year. I'd say 18 and 19 were more successes than 2021, but in this 22 Yankee season, they've been amazing. Really almost on a historic level. So it's a different team than 17. But my point is, to bring it back to the Rangers, is it reminds me of that. It really does, where this should be a team that is heard from for the next few years, for sure. But it's just tough to get. But I think the Rangers should be a perennial playoff team, maybe even a team that wins the division title. But it's hard to land back. A lot needs to go your way. And a lot did go the Rangers' way. But, eventually, I think they ran out of gas. And it's not an excuse. Tampa Bay was the better team. No way around that. But I think the Rangers, they had a couple of tough 7-game series. What did they play? What did they say? 20 games in 40 days? Thereabouts, playing every other night. It was not easy. And so I think the Rangers eventually, they just ran out of steam. And the Lightning, they've been there, done that. They know how to win games like this. So But I want to talk about, before we get into the game, Gerard Gallant, who I like him. I do. And I think like motivational and pushing the right buttons, he doesn't. Like Gerard Gallant is deserving of being a Jack Adams finalist. But tonight, and there's a lot to get into. It's almost threefold for me. And the three players that we need to discuss: Ryan Strome, Kakko, Dryden Hunt. So first things first, I guess let's start with Strome. It's really Strome and Kakko are the interesting ones, but Strome clearly hurt, and doesn't even finish this game. He would play 8:46 in 2 periods. He didn't even play the third. So it was limited action, and he didn't even play the third period. And Ryan Strome, not for nothing, it's not like you're forcing in Mika Zibanejad, right? Like that I can understand. You're forcing in Ryan Strome, who to begin with is not the best player, as we saw his miss in Game 5, open net chance. But that's like but not even relevant to this. So Ryan Strome should not have been lined up for that reason alone. Now what you're doing is they healthy scratch Kakko. Now there's some talk that maybe there's more than meets the eye here, maybe, and Kakko doesn't seem like this type, but maybe some disciplinary actions, but I don't fully believe that. I wish I could have given you an answer, but Gallant refused to say what the reasoning behind the Kakko sit. Emily Kaplan, great question in game. Gallant refused to ask it. Vince Percagliano refused, asked the question again. Gallant said he won't talk about it now. I think eventually he will. I think he'll be asked about it again. But Kakko was in warm-ups. So that doesn't add up to me as someone who, for disciplinary reasons, they wouldn't even be warming up. Like, Kakko was taking part in warm-ups. So that, to me, if we can assume that it wasn't anything odd, and it was just a straight-out scratch, you can't do that. Kakko, look, like, is Kakko a superstar right now? No. But the kid line has been very good. And Kakko, you believe is part of your future. Look, after this situation, it does raise questions. Like, where at one point it seemed like Kakko would definitely be on this team next season. Is there a world that exists that he doesn't? Yes. If I had to bet money on it, I think he'll be back next year. But you sat him in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Final. That's telling. That is, in terms of what they think. So, didn't love those two things alone. Healthy Kakko, injured Strome. Healthy Kakko, injured Strome. Yeah, let's go with injured Strome. Makes a ton of sense. But also, Dryden Hunt finds his way back in the lineup. And do I prefer Hunt over Reeves? Yes, I do. But Dryden Hunt hadn't played since either Game 3 or 4 of the Pittsburgh series. It was one of those two games, if memory serves. They both kind of blend in because those were really ugly losses to the Penguins. So suffice it to say, he hadn't played in a while. And not only did Dryden Hunt play in this game, he got legit minutes. Dryden Hunt was on the ice for the game-winning goal by the Lightning. Hunt was back, was playing with Panarin. Dryden Hunt was playing with Panarin, which we saw a lot during the season, which was not a good thing, which is why the Rangers made those trades for Vatrano, for Kopp, so on and so forth. I don't know, Gerard Gallant, not great. Not great and kind of indefensible. I'm sorry. And would it have changed the result? No, not necessarily. Although Ryan Strome was on for that first Stamkos goal, which was a bad Shesterkin goal. But still, Stamkos had all the room he wanted to, but Strome couldn't move. He couldn't move. Why are you forcing him into the lineup? I just don't understand that shit. It makes no sense to me. So, Gallant, there's a lot of answering to do there for me. But let's get into the game. And Tampa Bay was the better team. They outshot the Rangers 31-21. And there was no score after the first, no penalties either. And, I thought the Rangers were fortunate to come out of that first scoreless. And then in the second, there would be penalties on Sergachev and Rooney at 3:29. So we go into 4-on-4. Nothing really happens there. And eventually, a very innocent play. Like I said, Strome couldn't really get to Stamkos, but Igor, mind you, was amazing. in this game. So, but this was a bad goal. The first Stamkos goal was a bad goal by Shesterkin. Just a long shot that just goes in from the right side. Stamkos, his 8th goal of the playoffs from Palat and Sergachev, gives the Lightning a 1-0 lead. This was a bad goal by Igor. But Igor, like, what can you say? He's their best player. He is arguably the best goalie in the league. Vasilevsky's obviously incredible. But you put Igor on the Lightning, what do you think's happening? You put Igor, let's say you flip goalies, Igor's winning with Tampa. So as good as Vasilevsky is, he wasn't tested. I mean, Shesterkin was, after a couple of rough games at Pittsburgh in 3 and 4, what a response for Shesterkin. Very impressive. Like, kudos to him. He was the best Ranger player from start to finish the season, playoffs. He is their guy. And so, for better or worse, it kind of reminds you of Lundqvist. And unfortunately, Lundqvist never won a cup. Hopefully, somehow it'll be different with Igor. But Tampa Bay takes that 1-0 lead. And then Artemi Panarin takes a high sticking penalty at 12:59. And that would be Tampa's one power play. The Rangers would kill that off. And Igor made a lot of good saves to keep this a 1-goal game. So we headed to the third, and it's 1-0 Lightning. And I'm thinking at this point, Rangers are going to lose this game. But in Ranger fashion, they suck you in just a little bit, just to make it sting a little bit more. So at 2:26, Philip Hedl is high stick by Corey Perry, unsuccessful power play, but they get one more chance. Alexis Lafreniere is held by Steven Stamkos at 11:45, and I thought Lafreniere had an amazing individual effort to, result in that power play. And Lafreniere, the sky-high future for Lafreniere, I'm very impressed by what I've seen from him. He should be a very, very good player in this league. So that's going to be fun to see. And, his development will be very crucial in terms of what happens to the Rangers. And I think good things are ahead for Alexis Lafreniere. Him and Philip Hedl, I really thought both of them in this playoffs were excellent, and that's a really good sign for the future. So the Rangers get this power play, and it's the second unit that comes through. A face-off win by Andrew Kopp, and it's Frank Vatrano scoring his 5th goal of the playoffs from Kopp at 13:07. So Vatrano, this is what he does. He is a very good shooter, one of the best shooters in the National Hockey League. What's Vatrano's future with the Rangers? I don't know. I'm on the fence on him. Like, for the right price, I'm down to bring Frankie back, but if it's too steep, I wouldn't do it. It's that simple. So Rangers tied up at 1. And I'm still not feeling good about it. Like, I'm happy, but I'm feeling good about things. And sure enough, and this has been a problem for the Rangers, I guess specific to the playoffs, I'll say not so much regular season, more so playoffs, where the Rangers score a goal and either right after it's either a penalty or a great chance for the opposition, or in this case, a goal. 21 seconds after Vatrano scores, it is Steven Stamkos' 2nd goal of the night, 9th goal of the playoffs from Kucherov and Palat. And really, the main culprit on this one is Jacob Trouba. And Jacob Trouba was the GOAT in Game 3 for bad reasons, not a good GOAT. Fucks up in Game 3, and then here. So Jacob Trouba, for me, just not a big Jacob Trouba fan. I'll just leave it at that. Like, I respect what he brings. I do. He's not a bum per se. He's not. I shouldn't even say per se, but I'm just not a big fan of Jacob Trouba. And Stamkos comes in all alone, and Igor makes the initial great save, but then he kind of loses control of it, and it goes in off like Stamkos' leg. A really weird goal, but you can't let him have that chance in the first place. So it's not like, oh my God, like, yes, it was a lucky goal, but why is he going in all alone? Like, that's on Trouba. Stamkos just blows by him, and it's 2-1 right there. And the Rangers would have some chances late with the goalie pull, but Tampa Bay wins it 2-1. So you had Game 3 where Tampa wins with 42 seconds left, Game 5 where Tampa wins with 150 left, and then in Game 6, a little bit more than that, Tampa wins with 6:32 left. So it's those quick responses that you just cannot, like, the Rangers, after you score a goal, you got to settle it down. And that should have never happened. And the Lightning stars were better than the Rangers stars. Chris Kreider, where were you? Where were you, Chris Kreider? Like, this is the Kreider that I'm used to from years past. Inconsistent, invisible, and not great. Artemi Panarin, we've spoken about him. And we'll find out about the injuries in a couple of days, and I'm sure he's hurt. But, Panarin, the Lightning series was better than the Penguins and Carolina series. Certainly better than the Carolina series. But you like more production. You feel bad that he doesn't really play. And when he's playing with the likes of Strome and Kopp, that's not great. But in terms of players that I like this postseason, but I want to, let's keep it somewhat positive. Shesterkin was obviously amazing. And for me, 3 forwards that I thought were really good on the whole. Inconsistencies for sure, but on the whole, Mika Zibanejad, Philip Hedl, and Alexis Lafreniere. On the defensive side, 3 that I liked: Adam Fox, Ryan Lindgren, Keandre Miller. Thought all those players, positive marks for them overall. Were there some bad moments? Of course. It's a 20-game sample size. There's going to be, Mika was a bit inconsistent at times, but really carried this team when they needed him. So, good on Zibanejad. And like I said, the kid line was a bright spot, and the young defenseman. I'm not going to include Braden Schneider, of course. I think Schneider has a lot to work on, and he's still very young. He probably shouldn't have been in that situation. But, Rangers, it's a tough way to go out. For me, the tougher parts were, Game 3 and then Game 5 to a lesser extent. Those are the ones that really hurt me. Game 6, look, this sucked too. This definitely sucked. But I never really felt like the Rangers were going to win this game, even though they tied it up late. Game 3, that's the big one. And like I said, Game 5, because you're at home, and it was, the Rangers, that was a 50-50 type game. But the Lightning do what they do, and now they'll be facing the Colorado Avalanche in what should be a very interesting Stanley Cup final. For the Rangers, the season ends. And like I said, this is, this 2022 Ranger team, there's some similarities to the 2017 Yanks. We'll see where that leads them. But I think with the Rangers, it's when you look back at it all, they've wildly exceeded expectations. The fact that they, got it to this point is crazy to me for a team that I was just hoping was going to make the playoffs. They hadn't made it since 2017. So we will be back, and I will, in a couple of weeks, likely discuss sort of a season recap, if you will, and then also what I'm hoping for realistically moving forward with this team. Because Chris Drury has a lot of interesting decisions on his hand. We'll find that, and we will find out most of these decisions within, in about a month's time. In about a month's time, we will learn a lot about the direction of this team. And I shouldn't say direction of this team, just certain players. The main core will be back. But the supplementary pieces, there's a lot of interesting decisions. Second line center, the depth forwards and defense wise. So we're going to have to see what happens. But again, the New York Rangers are eliminated. They lose 4 straight, losing 6. And they lose tonight 2-1 to the Tampa Bay Lightning.